I want to comment on the Oprah Winfrey, Meghan, and Prince Harry's interview that was recently done because even though I'm not a royal watcher at all whatsoever, I must just comment on the fact that this has been a long time coming. Primarily because, from what I understand, when I did from time to time glance at the news in Great Britain, when they spoke about Meghan, it was always derogatory. And I think one of the last headlines that I remember glancing at was of a man or someone standing with a chimpanzee next to him. And I think that was in reference to Meghan's firstborn son. With that being said, I'm not surprised. I think that Princess Diana just wished she could have had or done an interview similar to this before she separated from her husband. With that being said, some of the things that Meghan said, I'm not too sure that I really believe she was surprised that they were, wanting to know the color of the baby. I mean, come on, because we're talking about bloodlines here. And if you know anything about being black, it's not just that you're black, it's that the bloodline of being black can jump out at any given time. So just because Meghan is very light in skin, she's biracial, her mother is very much so a black woman, and that's very clear, and her father is a white male. So Meghan is very light skinned, but that does not mean that she can't have a child that's darker. So I don't believe that Meghan was surprised. She may have been surprised that they even had the conversation, but in terms of the way she was treated, some of it was definitely because of the color of her skin. There's no doubt about that. But the other part, listen, Princess Diana complained about feeling depressed. Princess Diana complained about feeling lonely. Feeling lonely in a big castle. How do you feel lonely in a big castle? I do not know. So a lot of people felt years ago, back in the 90s, I think it was 1995, when Princess Diana did the interview with Martin Bashir, that in fact, it was very sad that Princess Diana would be left to fend for herself. And certainly Prince Charles didn't seem or appear to stand up for her in any way, fashion, or form. And in terms of the tabloid, they were constantly chasing behind Princess Diana. That's how Princess Diana died. But I digress. When it was announced that Meghan and Harry would be leaving and they were going off to Canada, shortly thereafter, it was announced that they would lose, they wouldn't have security. I remember listening to news outlets in Canada stating they did not have enough resources to provide security. So here they are, they leave Great Britain and they go off to Canada, and then it's announced publicly to the world they will no longer have any security whatsoever. And then I think shortly after it, again, I'm not a royal watcher, but I think shortly after that, they ended up coming to the United States. And I really didn't know what took place from that point until this interview. I didn't know that Tyler Perry allowed them to stay at his home. He also provided them with security until they could get situated. I didn't know that until the Oprah Winfrey interview. But I, again, have to digress and go back to Princess Diana. And here's why. I do remember when it was announced they were leaving and no longer going to be the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, and they were leaving that position. Initially, if I'm not mistaken, they thought they were going to be able to do it part of the time based on the way that they worked out the arrangement. But when you listen to the interview, you find out that that wasn't the case at all. That in fact, they tried very hard, and in some cases were side blinded. But I do remember when they exited, they were calling it Meghan exit, similar to Brexit, Mexit, and all this other stuff. They kept trying to lean and lean and lean all the responsibility and the guilt on Meghan. And again, when you look at the tabloids of things that they had in the newspaper over in Great Britain about Meghan, they were always negative. And as I said before, the last one was so negative, I just quit looking. I quit glancing at it. And now we find out of the horse's mouth from Prince Harry how he felt and why he openly needed to make that decision. But here's what Great Britain, and I guess the rest of them that are following along with the story and reporting on it, choose to ignore. They're ignoring Princess Diana. Princess Diana did an interview saying she felt depressed and lonely. Okay? Princess Diana died under mysterious circumstances, being chased by the paparazzi, supposedly. Princess Diana had rumors that were in the headlines in Great Britain from time to time that weren't exactly reflecting upon her in a positive light or manner. So when I heard Meghan do the interview, it really sounded and echoed to me Princess Diana. Now, why are they pretending as if it didn't cause devastation or an impact to Prince Henry, the death of his mother? Why are they pretending as if that exists? Keep in mind, I think they may have gotten a divorce or somehow, but keep in mind there were rumors all the while that Princess Diana's husband had a mistress. And quite frankly, the woman he's with now, Camille, is the woman that they pointed out was the mistress at the time he was married to Princess Di. So with this being said, where's the surprise at? And I'm not talking about in terms of Meghan. I'm talking about in terms of Buckingham Palace and some of the British news outlets and some of the American news outlets. Where's the surprise at? Are we surprised that they asked about what color the baby would be? Or are we surprised? And that's the question that we really need to answer in terms of how Meghan felt. Because this same situation in terms of someone feeling shut out and left alone happened to Prince Harry's mother. And in return, at the end, she died. She died under mysterious circumstances in a crash that no one else got injured. No other cars around them got injured, not even including the paparazzi. It was only the people in the car. And I think that one bodyguard survived. And in the car with Princess Diana at the time of her death, when the paparazzi, supposedly the paparazzi, was chasing after her, she was in the car with, I guess, someone that she dated or was seeing, her friend, her lover, whatever you want to call him, by the name of Dodi, a Persian Egyptian. Dodi, very wealthy. They used to run the department store. His father owned a department store that I think he recently sold called Harrods. I think it's called Harrod. And I think it's the equivalent of a Macy's, a Bloomingdale's, etc., that it would be here in the United States. So with that being said, why are the media acting as if they're surprised that Meghan comes out and states how she feels when this same thing happened? This is 2021. This happened back in the 90s in terms of Princess Di telling people how she felt being in the kingdom, in the British kingdom. You know, but I have to digress from this because I want to talk a little bit about, I think there was a time also with Meghan, for whatever the reason, something I did not know is that Dodi, the Persian Egyptian's father, dedicated a statue. And somehow, I think either around the Meghan Markle's firstborn announcement or around the marriage, they took down the statue or moved the statue to another location, I believe in England. Why that happened, I do not know. But there were a lot of things happening if you just looked or glanced at the movement of things that were going on. And one of the things that stuck out the most about Meghan's experience was that the news media outlets there in Great Britain were very, 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 very negative towards her. It seemed as though everything she even did seemed to come out in a negative light. And it obviously was intentional. And now she gets to finally, as well as Harry gets to finally speak their truth. They're acting as if, well, why now? Why this? Why not now? They've had, over 3 years where they've been bombarded with attacks and accusations of things that have been said, especially about Meghan, and in fact, including blaming Meghan for the move. No, Prince Harry said in his own words that he saw what was going on and he did not want to repeat things from the past being his mother, Princess Di. That's it. So I'm not understanding what the British tabloids and media outlets, as well as here in the United States, are thinking when they're trying to pretend as if this is revelation. It shouldn't be a revelation. I think Prince Henry mentioned that they didn't learn from their past errors of ways. It shouldn't be a revelation when Princess Di did that interview stating how she felt. And then again, being killed by the paparazzi indirectly chasing after her, and everyone in the car dying except for the bodyguard. And I believe that bodyguard was in the front seat, and that was Dodi, the Persian Egyptian that I believe Princess Di was seeing. That was his bodyguard that was in the front seat. The driver died. They claim the driver was intoxicated, I think, or believe. And definitely Princess Di and Dodi died, point blank and period. And you just have to wonder, how can someone be chasing, how can a media or anything be chasing them so fast and so quickly that the only collision that happens is them hitting a wall and dying? You have to wonder, really. I think that everyone in the world did wonder about it because it was rather strange. Think about it. You're being traced and you're moving so fast, and then you hit a wall. But the only people that die are the people in the car, one survivor. But other than that, everyone else is killed. And the people responsible for chasing after them leave without a scathe. I mean, this is ridiculous. So everyone, with his mother passed away, the whole world was shocked. For those that are royal watchers, which I'm not, some may have been saddened. We know that they were. People were saddened by it, etc. But for the most part, I think people were just very surprised. So when I listened to the interview and Prince Harry saying how sideblinded he was, that they not only were not going to provide security for Meghan and their newborn son, but then in turn not provide security for him, yeah, you better get out. You don't have no other choice but to get out. Because obviously they're not concerned for your well-being. I'm sorry. There's something wrong here. And there was something wrong then when Princess Di expressed it. She expressed that something was wrong. She was not feeling like herself. Very similar to what Meghan said. She was not feeling like herself. And now we fast forward to find out that they're making comments about what is the color of the baby going to be. And this is, I think, definitely in reference to her firstborn, her son. And then Meghan was surprised that her son would not be acknowledged as a prince. And that was the proper, normal protocol. And now you hear the news outlets, at least some that I've listened to in Great Britain, saying, no, that's not the protocol. Well, it doesn't take much to take a look and see. I don't know any royals. I don't care what line of the royal family that they come from in Great Britain that don't have a title. Not their children, not their family members. I don't know any. They all seem to have titles to me. But again, I'm not a royal watcher. I can only watch what I see. And what I see is definitely signs of not just racism. Because again, Princess Di is white. Princess Diana was white. She felt the same way that Meghan feels today and was able to express it. Princess Di expressed it, I think, in an interview with Martin Bashir in 1995. Meghan, and expressed that interview, by the way, I think after the fallout with her and Prince Charles and the royal family. In this situation, they're still not only living, but they have left Great Britain, which Princess Diana did not leave Great Britain at that time. And they've gone off and moved to two different countries, landing up in United States. So surprised at what? I'm not surprised at the royal family only because I remember the situation with Princess Di. What I am surprised is that the Great Britain media seems to have amnesia, and the amnesia is coming from the fact that Princess Di had already expressed these same type of sentiments towards how she was being treated and how she felt. And then we go into the fact that with Meghan, not only were they treating Meghan similar to what Princess Di said she was treated, but add on top of that Meghan is biracial. Meghan's mother is black. She's obviously a black woman. Meghan being surprised that they even mentioned what the color of her firstborn child would be. I think she may have been more surprised that they said it kind of openly or casually or whatever, because I couldn't get the gist of whether or not they only said it to Prince Harry and Prince Harry related to Meghan, but it sounded to me based on the interview that they had gestured it a few times. Now, with that being said, in terms of what color the baby's going to be, there's no secret that there's been black people in the Great Britain royal family since the beginning of time. That's number one. Okay. But there's also no surprise, especially to people of African descent around the world, that there is racism in the British Empire, because the British Empire was the empire that initiated primarily the North Atlantic slave trade. They're the ones, they're the leaders of it. So how could we be surprised? I think what's surprising is that people, or at least the news outlets, are surprised that the words racism came out. But if we were able to, we would ask Princess Di. Do they think that they want a Princess Di to date the Persian Egyptian Dodi? Didn't seem like it. Definitely didn't seem like it. So where's the surprise at? The only thing I think Meghan was probably not being very honest about is that she kind of implied that she was surprised that there was racism. No. I don't think that Meghan thought that there was no racism. But again, I go back to them casually speaking about what the color of the baby would be. That would be surprising for someone to do it in your face. But I digress. There's a lot of history to the British Empire, as we all know, but I think they really need to look within, and they need to really look at Princess Diana's situation. And as far as blaming things on Meghan, you heard it from the horse's mouth. You heard it from Prince Henry, how he felt. I'm not understanding what they're not understanding about a parent dying in a unforeseen collision where no one else is injured but the people in that car. Really? And before her death, there were negative headlines all about England and saying things about his mother. And then they went on to a funeral procession. And if you saw the looks on the royal family's face, I didn't know what was really going on because I watched it. So I'm just trying to figure out where's the surprise at in any level, whether it be racism, whether it be how someone can be treated in the royal family for whatever the reason. If they're biracial, it's off the chain. But if they're not biracial, then they're white and they're like Princess Di, they too can be feeling mistreated of sorts. Where's the surprise at? This is not just history repeating itself, but to like not acknowledge the pain and the feelings that Princess Diana's children felt and how they were impacted behind her death is ridiculous. And that's what I see the mainstream media primarily doing, especially the one in Great Britain. I can't say so much about the one in the United States, but in the British seem to be just ignoring that Princess Di died under very unexpected circumstances, and somehow that didn't put an impact on Prince Harry's thought process and how he felt about things. I find that to be a bit remiss. And those are my comments about this whole entire situation.